it's not that deep. The system has already been ingrained in you, because let's really be honest about it, they want to force you to speak about the issues they care about in a way that they want to. You are too much, you think you're better than us, why not accept the things as they are? As Kenyan citizens, we are living at a time where our government has told us plain blank that it doesn't really care about us. It has done so through the proposed finance bill. This has sparked a lot of protests which have been pioneered by a lot of young people, Gen Zs and the millennials. The number of propositions that they have there, I mean, to tax bread, tax diapers, tax pads, tax cancer treatment. Are you kidding me? It's as if they were conducting an experiment. Let's see if these Kenyans are going to say anything about this, because Kenyans have always been very dormant. A lot of Kenyans have always been like, what can we do? This time we really went too far, and Kenyans came out and were like, no, this is not happening. And seeing all these online conversations and the vigor that a lot of people are having at this moment, it really got me thinking about the possibilities, the percentage, the probabilities of success in this country. It's actually next to impossible. And I would really like to say that it's just the fault of our governments. We have corrupt governments, they don't care about us. But when you really look at it, our leaders are a direct reflection of who we are as a people. Whether we want to accept this, this is the reality. One of the things that really makes Kenya a hostile country for success is the fact that there is very little to no support and maximum cannibalism. This means that if you want to do something that is not considered normal or conventional, if you're bringing a new perspective into any field, you're not encouraged to do so. If you have a business idea in Kenya, it's very hard to get financial support from Kenyans themselves. It's easier for you to get financial support from foreigners. And actually, if you look at a lot of startups in Kenya, they are mostly invested in by people from different countries, whether it's the United States, whether it's Europe, whether it's investors from other African countries. But to find a Kenyan investor that truly believes in your idea, it's very difficult. And it's even much worse when you are a woman, because Kenyan society doesn't really believe in the voices of women. And I know this because I'm a Kenyan woman myself. I've grown up in the Kenyan system, and I hear often how people talk about successful women. When a woman becomes successful in Kenya, no one is like, oh my god, she's smart, she's qualified. It's always, oh, she slept her way to the top. She got there because she slept with someone. And this is actually a different type of cannibalism, because when you become successful as a woman, instead of you being seen for who you are dehumanized to an object. That is cannibalism. Adding to this, there's very little psychological and emotional support. You know very well, if you are embarking on a new journey that a lot of people have never really gone on, it's very difficult, and you need people around you to help you to go through your days, to even tell you, oh, you did well, to remind you that you are doing something good for the betterment of the society. But most Kenyans don't get to experience that. All that you're getting all the time is just being gaslighted over and over, being told how you are on the wrong path, how you're bound to fail. You're even asked, why are you doing this? Just go get a job in a big company, get a good salary, buy a car, build a house. Or bullied excessively for trying to be different, for trying to take a different path. Like, you are too much, you think you're better than us, why not accept the things as they are? And I know this is true because this is something that I've always had over and over. You know what I actually find funny right now that a lot of people are suddenly becoming interested in politics because these taxes are going to affect their lives? These are the same people that used to tell me that I am too much of an activist, that I take things too seriously, that it's not that deep. I've always been someone who uses their voice to call out the status quo, to ask questions. I've always challenged people about the thoughts they have about the leadership in our country, but each and every time I was always being told I was being too much. But essentially, all those things that I was calling out years ago, those are the things that have actually contributed to the governments that we have today. Because of the silence of the majority of people years ago, that is what has led us to where we are today. But the same people who are telling me to shut up, that I was too much then, right now suddenly they want to pretend that, oh my god, we should all care about politics. You think you're going to school me about politics now when you told me to shut up years ago because it didn't affect you? Isn't that hypocrisy? When you only speak out because something affects you, that is hypocrisy. And what's even worse, instead of actually realizing that your silence years ago has contributed to what we have today, you think that just because you started being interested in politics yesterday, everyone else should also be interested in politics the way you are. Everyone else should have the fire that you have right now. Your fire just started yesterday and you think you can bully other people to become like you? What kind of thinking is this? And we see this play out a lot online because a lot of people are tagging a lot of influencers. People are like, oh, we made you. First of all, I think a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to content online, influencing, content creation, even outside of social media, let's talk about celebrities. People do not owe you anything. When you say that you made them, that is absolutely false. You need to realize that the reason why they are where they are is because they provided value. You saw that value in what they were creating, and that's why you became a supporter. That's why you followed them. It's not like they're just existing and you decided that, oh, this person is cool, I'm going to elevate them. It's a symbiotic relationship. That's why you do not have a right to bully other people to use their voice in the way that you deem fit. Because let's really be honest about it, when people are talking about how influencers have big platforms and they need to use them for good, they're only speaking from their own perspective. They're only thinking that, oh, because right now you're caring about politics, you have the right to force somebody else to speak about politics in the way that you see fit. So basically, these are the same people that when you were starting your career as an influencer were telling you that you're embarrassing yourself online, that you're cringe, and then once you've actually built a bigger platform, they want to force you to speak about the issues they care about in a way that they want to. That is being cannibalistic. And it is these behaviors that exactly reflect the leaders that end up being elected. That's why when you really look at a lot of my videos, I'm focusing on us as individuals, asking ourselves questions and changing our mindsets, because essentially all change starts with the individual. That is how we can slowly change the systems. And because a lot of people are really oblivious to this reality that we need to change our mindsets, this is what really makes it very easy for the political systems to use the laws against us. Because in the heads of majority of people, true change is only going to come by trying to storm the system. But no, the system has already been ingrained in you ever since you were born through your parents, the way they tell you to not act up, to be obedient. That is the first way that you're actually taught about following the rules. When you go to school, it's the same way. You're told to wear uniforms. They discourage any kind of difference. When you go to the church, it's all about fear tactics. If you don't do what the God is telling you, you're gonna go to hell. It's about fear, it's about manipulation. All the systems and institutions are just built to oppress and oppress and oppress instead of uplifting people. And on top of this, there's systemic corruption. It's not just leaders who are corrupt, also day-to-day Kenyans. There's so many young girls who are experiencing period poverty, and there are some men who go to these young girls and they're like, oh, you want pads? Well, sleep with me, then I'm gonna give you the pads. You know, a school classmate was actually approached by someone in the company she wanted to work in. This guy was like, you passed your interview, but for you to actually get that job, meet me at the hotel. I'm like, what? And obviously this is not the subject of this video, but the things women go through in this country, the number of men who use their positions of power to take advantage of women and young girls, this is something we're gonna have to talk about someday. But of course, a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable. There's also the fact that to succeed in this country, the cost of starting is just so high. To open a business, you need to have, I don't know, 1,000 licenses. I am in the communication space. I went to school with people who are photographers and videographers, and the amount of licenses they need to have. Did you know you can't even import a drone into Kenya without paying exorbitant amount of monies? And you know, they can even be like, oh, we are not giving you this drone. It's also a proposition to tax cameras and lenses. It's as if they're just committed to ensuring that you don't even start your project. There was even a proposition, and I think it has actually been enforced, that if you want to have a YouTube channel, you should be paying for a license to shoot anything in Kenya. Like, who? You know, these people that make these decisions in Kenya, they baffle me. How do you just sit down and say that if you want to start a YouTube channel, you need to have a license? Are you okay? And again, this comes down to there's just maximum cannibalism in this country. No one wants to see you winning or flourishing. And apart from this cost of even starting being very high, there's just high levels of gatekeeping because nepotism. Get a job through meritocracy in this country is a dream. If you're lucky, if you have a master's degree like me, you're gonna get a job that wants to pay you $100 or $200, and they're like, you should be grateful for that. And then you're seeing someone you went to school with who never really went to class is now holding a managerial job. They're not good at their job, but they're still getting paid well just because they knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, da da da. And this is what I always find very funny about Kenyans, because again, a lot of Kenyans are always like, these leaders are so corrupt. But when they actually get an opportunity to make money or advance their career through someone they know or through these politicians, suddenly they're quiet. Suddenly they do not complain about these leaders being corrupt because they're benefiting from this corruption. Then there's also a factor that a lot of people don't talk about, but in Kenya, if you're a young person, it's impossible for you to succeed because of the demonization of youth. And I should actually add womanhood, because again, being a woman in Kenya, you are not considered to be a worthy human being unless you are a supporting character in your own life. Youth voices are really not being heard. Even right now, when a lot of young people are actually protesting, a lot of older generations are saying, oh, these Gen Zs, they're just protesting for likes and views on TikTok. There's really no seriousness that is given to you as a youth, as a young person. Even in many sectors, in many industries, when you get into these companies as a young person and you have any new ideas, you're always told to just sit down, shut up, and listen to what the older ones have to say. That's why we're really stuck in this cycle of poverty, of corruption. The gatekeepers, the old people, do not want to open their minds. They don't respect the young people. And I know there are a lot of people who can be like, oh, you are so reaching when you talk about women are not being heard. But did you know it's actually easier for you to start a business as a woman outside Kenya than inside Kenya? There's so many women who have created profitable businesses in Western countries, and they've gotten support from Western countries, and yet if they'd done the same in Kenya, it would have never passed. In fact, what a lot of women do is that when they have innovative ideas or business ideas, they give them to their husbands, and then these men are the ones that actually go and make bank out of it, and the woman just remains a supporting character in her life. You know, this is actually taking us back, because the one that has the idea, the one that has actually been gifted with this idea from the universe, is the one that can execute it very well in a way that is going to benefit you more. So if you're giving it to somebody else, this person doesn't have the vision. And because a lot of these Kenyan men are actually driven by pride and ego, they cannot let a woman actually guide them in these businesses. They want to remain the brains of the business, and at some point you just get at an impasse and it's not growing because you're not allowing the person that was gifted with this vision to be the lead. Because again, we're constantly being told as women, you were the neck of the man, your work is to submit to a man, your work is just to help the man. This is the same thing that you hear in a lot of these companies. They do not want bright women, they don't want brilliant women. I know this from experience. They want women who are just going to submit to the manager and be like, oh, I have this great idea, maybe you can talk to the CEO about it. All your great ideas, the manager takes them, and the manager is the one who gets rewarded while you just sit there. And then what are they gonna say about you? She slept her way to the top. The last reason is the fact that it's very easy for people from other countries to actually succeed in this country than it is for Kenyans. There's actually a case of a French man who came to Kenya a few years ago, and then he was like, oh my god, you don't have affordable food in this country. I'm going to start a company, and then I'm going to be delivering affordable food in Kenya. And that was absolutely false, because in Kenya we do have a kibandaski culture where they make affordable, healthy food for Kenyans. This man just came out of nowhere and decided, no, I can do this better. And this person got funding from Kenyan banks. These same Kenyan banks refuse to fund Kenyan ideas because they don't trust Kenyan people, but somehow they can trust someone who comes from a whole different country because they're Caucasian. And of course, this stems from self-hatred. Kenya has a lot of self-hatred, and it's very easy to see this if you watch a lot of Kenyan films, Kenyan TV series. You always realize that the main lead, the protagonists, are always light-skinned women. They're always wearing straight hair wigs, and they cast a dark-skinned woman. It's someone who is going through a lot of problems. When you look at Kenyan TV stations, you will see that a lot of the women, they're wearing straight hair wigs because hair like mine is considered to be unprofessional. African-inspired attire is actually not allowed in Kenyan parliament. They only want you to wear suits. They don't even want you to wear a suit that has been made with an African fabric. That is the epitome of self-hatred. If you're so talented in a way that a lot of Kenyans cannot ignore you, they'll be like, you're so underrated. As if somebody else needs to rate you for you to be considered worthy. Underrated by whose standard? There's no need of going through so much suffering trying to be had in your own country. And of course, this is so sad, because isn't home supposed to be the safest place? But no, most times home is the worst place for you. And especially if you're a young, smart, ambitious woman,